Hi, boys and girls. It's so nice to see you. I am here to talk about fractions greater than 1 today. So last week, Mrs. Knott gave a mini lesson about fractions greater than 1, and I'm here today to add on to that thinking and show you how we can use fractions greater than 1 and place them on a number line. So the first thing I want to do is do a quick review of what Mrs. Knott talked about last week. So you can see right here on my screen, I have a picture of 3 whole circles. 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes. I'm first going to take a look at one of my holes and see how many equal pieces it's divided into. So I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I notice that my second and third hole also are divided up into 5 equal pieces. That means that my denominator is going to be fifths, which I already filled in right here. Even though I have more than one hole, because each hole is divided into 5 pieces, my denominator is going to be fifths. So I'm going to count how many of these fifths are colored in red to solve for my numerator. So here we go. I'm going to start right here at my first hole. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5, 6/5, 7/5, 8/5, 9/5, 10/5, 11/5, 12/5. So I can fill in right here 12/5. That's going to tell me that I have 12 filled in pieces of my 3 holes that are each divided into fifths. Okay? So I know that 5/5 made up my first hole, 10/5 made up my second hole, and my additional 2/5 of my third hole gave me my total of 12/5. So now I'm going to switch my screen back to something that we've talked about before, fractions on a number line. So I'm going to take a look right over here at my left-hand side and see that my fraction I'm going to focus on right now is 3/5. So once again, we're talking about the denominator fifths. So something that we talked about in school was that a great way to solve a number line is to draw a rectangle above it. Whoops, which I already did. So this rectangle is going to help me see my fraction pieces above my number line. So what I'm going to do is, since I already filled in my rectangle above, I'm going to add my dividing lines onto my number line. So there's 1 piece, 2, 3, and my last one, 4. I know that I always want to draw 1 fewer line than my denominator. So 4 lines to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Okay, so I need to find 3/5, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to label my entire number line from 0 to 1. I'm going to start right here. If I'm starting at the end of my rectangle, the beginning of my number line, how many pieces do I have? I'm going to move my label over. I know that I have 0/5. I don't have any pieces yet. I'm starting at the beginning. Okay. If I move right over here to my first line, I know that I've just moved 1/5 of my number line. I'm going to fill that in. Okay. Here's that 1/5. Now if I add another fifth to that, can you tell me how many pieces I have? If you said 2/5, awesome job. You are correct. 2/5. If I add another fifth to my counting, how many pieces do I have? I have 3/5. Counting another piece, I'm going to add 4/5, and my final piece equal to 1 whole 5/5, my complete number line. Nice work. Thanks for helping me. So now I'm going to take a look at my next slide, and now we're going to start talking about fractions that are greater than 1 and how to put them on a number line. But before we do that, I just want to show you part of my number line, because this part of my number line goes from 0 to 1, just like we talked about, having no pieces and all the way to 1 whole. And if you take a look over on the left-hand side, you can see that I am focused on halves. So halves means I'm dividing that piece, this whole piece, into two equal pieces. Okay, so if I start at the end and I have no pieces, I haven't started yet, I'm going to fill that in with 0 halves. Okay, then I'm going to move to the middle. I have 1/2. And if I continue going to get to my whole, I'm going to have 2 halves. Now I'm going to reveal the rest of my number line. I'm going to continue going from my one whole all the way to another whole. So I've already labeled my one whole as 2 halves. They've already filled in that my next half is going to be 3 halves. If I go all the way to 2 wholes, I'm going to have 4 halves. Okay? So we can think about that as a visual, as 2 rectangles, which I'm going to show you right now. So my first rectangle, which would be from 0 to 1, if I split that into 2 equal pieces, here's 1/2, here's 2 halves. Then, if I wanted to add another whole, here's my second whole. I have 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves. So all I did was add an additional shape that was also split into 2 pieces to go from 0 halves to 4 halves. All right, let's take a look at my next number line. Now, this number line is a little different. I'm noticing on the left-hand side, it's asking me to split into thirds, okay? This number line is already split into 3 equal pieces. First piece, second piece, third piece. But I'm noticing this number line does not start at 0. It starts at 1 and ends at 2. So if my number line starts at 1, I'm not going to start with 0 thirds. I need to think about how many thirds make one whole. Take a look at my fraction options at the bottom and see if you can help me out and tell me how many thirds make one whole. If you said 3/3, you are correct. Nice job. 3/3 is going to make one whole. Think about a rectangle split into 3 pieces. If each one of those pieces was colored in, it would give me 3/3. Now I'm going to try to fill in the rest of this number line. If I start with 3/3 and I add another piece to 3/3, I'm going to land on 4/3. 4/3, adding another equal piece would be 5/3. And 2 whole pieces would become 6/3. Nice job. So we've gone from 3/3 to 4/3 to 5/3 to 6/3. This one we had to be really careful and pay attention because our number line did not start at 0. It started at 1. All right, my final fraction number line for you. Take a look. Let's see. This number line is being split into fifths, and it is starting at the number 2. 2 wholes. It's not starting at 0. It's not starting at 1. So I need to pay really close attention to that, and I need to think to myself, how many fifths make up 2 wholes? Well, if I look at my rectangle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I know that 1 whole is 5/5. If I keep adding 5 more pieces, how many would 2 wholes be? Take a second and see if you can figure that out. All right, 1 whole we know is 5/5. 2 wholes is going to be 10/5. And if you notice, 10 is double what 5 is. So I know I can divide 5 into 10 and come out with 2. That's a little trick to help you out if you need it. So now that I've labeled my 2 wholes, I can continue moving on. So 2 wholes is 10/5. If I add another piece, we'll have 11/5. My next piece would be 12/5. Then I would have 13/5. Then I would have 14/5. And finally, at 3 wholes, I'm going to have 15/5. And if you need a trick to help you check your work, just like I told you, 5 can go into 10 2 whole times. 5 can go into 15 3 whole times. So a little trick to check your work is you can divide this 5 into 15 to see if you get your 3 wholes. I hope this was helpful, and good luck with your challenge. I know you guys are going to do great. I'll see you soon.